Hi everybody. So this week we're going to be doing a little bit more library database research. So you got to practice this a couple of weeks ago with our Good Life unit. And this time we're going to see if you can pull up that skill set again and practice searching the library databases, finding an article, summarizing that article, posting it, and commenting on one another's work. And so as I've mentioned before, using the databases is a really important skill to leave 121 with. You are going to have other classes where your teachers will ask you to write research-based papers and they will ask you to use databases. So you want to feel kind of comfortable with it by the time you leave this class. So there are a couple of different ways that you can get to the library database. One way is through the Front Range website. You can go to campuses and then move over to libraries here. Once you get to this libraries page, in the left-hand column, it says online resources. And you can see you have two choices here. The Front Range Westminster, Boulder, and online learning databases, which if your home campus is one of these, then you'd probably want to use that. This used to be available to all Front Range students, including Larimer students, but I think they've started to clamp down on that a little bit now because I know that some of you who are on the Larimer campus tried using this earlier this semester and it didn't work. So if you're on the Larimer campus, let's go ahead and use this. And it's a little bit trickier to log in through the Larimer databases because the Westminster and online ones, you just need to enter your S number and it lets you write in. But for the Larimer ones, you actually have to go in through the library, which means you have to have library card. So if you don't have a library card, scroll down on this page and see if you can apply for a temporary library card. If this is not an option, then you may actually have to go into the library and get a card. But if it is an option, you can go ahead and click on that. And I had to do that today because my old library card was not working. So I actually went in today and did this. It took me about 2 minutes. I got my new number, my new PIN, and it all worked out just fine. So that is one way that you can get in to the libraries. Another way is you can just go into Google and you can search Poudre River Library District, and you don't have to go through Front Range at all. It'll take you directly to Poudre River Library District, so you end up on the same page. So when you're in here, you're going to click on Research, and it's going to take you down to these databases. And if you went in through the BCC and the Westminster and online link, you will also see Academic Search Premier EBSCO in there. And this is the one that I'm suggesting you use because it's just a really general, covers many, many different disciplines. If you're taking a history class or a psych class, your teacher might want you to use a different one, maybe ancient medieval history or something else. But for research that you're doing that is just kind of general research and you just need educated research, then you can go in here. So this is what it looks like when you're inside. So it doesn't look like Google, but it really kind of works very similar to Google. You just want to put your search terms in here. And I'm going to start with just putting in feminist ethics because I'm curious to see what comes up. And I'm going to say, yes, find all my search terms. Remember, it's important to click on full text because that's how you make sure you get the whole article and not just the abstract. Publication, I'm not going to worry about looking for a specific publication, but I am going to limit it this time to less than 10 pages because for this assignment, there's really no need for you to read anything that lengthy. I mean, I think, anywhere from like 3 to 5 pages is probably fine, but I want to make sure that it doesn't filter out some of the things that might be really good that I want. So I'm going to maybe give myself a little wiggle room there and put 10 in. I'm going to limit the dates too, because if I do, then I'm probably going to get more relevant stuff and I'm going to get, excuse me, my screen is being blocked by my camera. There we go. I'm going to get more relevant stuff, more timely stuff. So I'm going to just put in pretty much the last 10 or so years. Under publication type, it's totally fine if you want to leave it on all. But I was playing around with this earlier today, and I found that if I clicked on periodical, which really just means any type of print publication that comes out regularly, like weekly, monthly, monthly, that kind of thing, it's a periodical. So that would include things like academic journals, but it also includes things like Time Magazine and other kind of less challenging publications like that too. So I'm going to click periodical for mine, and then I think I've kind of narrowed my search as much as I want to narrow it for now. And I'm going to click on search. See what I end up with. Okay, so here we are, feminist ethics, and you can see here with this little icon what it is that it brings up. So if it's a periodical, you can kind of look and say, well, where is this? Okay, it's Scientific American Mind. So what I know about Scientific American Mind is that it's definitely written for an educated audience, but you could buy it like in Barnes and Noble, and that's not the case with an academic journal. You usually have to get those through research avenues online. You usually have to be a specified audience. So this is a little bit more like popular culture, right? So the periodical may not be as challenging to read as something like an academic journal. Although I will say if you limit the page length on the academic journals like I did to 10 pages or less, they tend to be a little bit less challenging to read than some of the longer ones. So I would just scroll through here. I'd say, okay, look, I've got 142. That's a lot. But what do I see coming up on the first couple pages? Is there anything that looks interesting to me? Let's see. This is kind of interesting. Peace building in Africa. I'm always interested in what's happening in Africa and how people are dealing with the challenges abroad. So I might click on this one. And then I might want to take a minute once you click on an article to look at the abstract and decide, is this really something I want to spend time reading? Okay, so I'm going to just look at this and you can read it too. Okay, so it seems like it may be a little challenging to read based on the abstract itself, but if it's something that I'm really interested in, then all I need to do is come over here and click on PDF full text. I'm going to get the whole article right here, and I can see how many pages it is in here. It's like, okay, that is almost 8 pages. So then I would decide, is this something I want? And if it is, then I could go ahead and I could email it to myself with this little icon on the right side there, email it to myself. And I might say, well, that one looks interesting, but I'm not really sure if that's the one I want. So I'm going to go back to my search and maybe there's something better. So I just send myself that one and I look through here and I see, is there something I like more? Maybe I'll jump ahead to the next page and see if there's something else I like in here. I'm very interested in environmentalism, so maybe I want to click on this one and check it out. This one probably has something to do with feminist ethics and abortion. So I could kind of scroll through and see if I want to find something that I like more. Or I could go up and I could try to narrow my search a little bit, feminist ethics of care. Maybe that'll bring up something else. Okay, look, so my search dropped from 140 something to just 41. So then maybe I'll click through here and see if there's something else that seems interesting to me. So here's, why has the ethics of care become an issue of global concern? That piques my interest. I'm interested in looking at what that might be about. So I'll click on it and look at that. Since Carol Gilligan published her masterpiece, many scholars, especially feminist scholars in various fields, including moral theory, philosophy, and political and legal theory, have been inspired to establish a more inclusive approach to social justice as well as sexual inequality. That sounds fascinating to me. So that might be something that I want to send to myself. And since it just reminded me of Carol Gilligan, who we studied, I might say, well, I wonder if Carol Gilligan has published anything in the last 10 years. So maybe I'll just put in Carol Gilligan and see if anything of hers comes up. So look, we have six results here. So these look like either people are writing about Carol Gilligan or written by Carol Gilligan. So this one says it's by Carol Gilligan. I click on it. She's a pretty big deal in the field of feminist ethics. And so this goes back to talking about President Barack Obama's reelection campaign. So this probably has something to do with women in politics. So that's how I might search for that stuff. Try not to settle for the first thing that comes up. You're going to have a more rich and satisfying experience if you actually spend a little time finding an article that you care about. So let's try virtue ethics. So I'm going to put in virtue ethics in general, see what comes up. That's a lot, 316. So I could kind of scroll through some of these. Okay, well, here's that word that we studied, eudaimonia. So eudaimoniaism, virtue and self-sacrifice. Maybe that's something I want to look at. Or I could go up and I could say, you know what, I'm really interested in virtue ethics and something like, let's say, relationships, right? We remember learning about relationships as a business. Well, I wonder what the virtue ethicist would have to say about that. So promoting professionalism through virtue ethics, moral ideals and virtue ethics. These seem like they could be readable articles. Strengthening moral courage among nurse leaders. So this could be interesting. I was looking more for like relationships, like the kind of relationships we have in our own lives. Okay, here's one. What's love got to do with it? So that catches my eye. So I click on that. This article discusses the relationship between economies, morality, and political philosophy. It references the article Market Reasoning as Moral Reasoning, Why Economists Should Re-Engage with Political Philosophy. Economists often ignore the moral implications of their market-based decisions. That's really interesting. So that's getting back to thinking of people as numbers or as math problems, right? And so this might deal with some of the economic decisions that get made and how we need to be thinking more about virtues. They bring up things here like generosity, civic virtue, not limited resources. So that might be interesting. I could email that to myself. So I hope that you're getting a sense in here of how you could play around and really find some interesting stuff. I'm going to try one more thing. I know this isn't necessarily related directly to virtue ethics or feminist ethics, but since so much of our thinking has been geared toward COVID, maybe there's something interesting that has come up in terms of ethics. So I'm just going to put in vaccine distribution. I'll put in, see what comes up, vaccine distribution, COVID ethics. Okay, so I thought there might be something that addressed this, and I'm seeing number 2 here, global COVID vaccine distribution and inoculations. Vaccinations increased the divide between affluent nations like ours and poorer countries as the rollout continues across the world. Well, that's kind of more contemporary news, and so I might be really interested in clicking on that and just figuring out what are the ethical implications of how we're distributing the vaccine currently globally. And so if you want to get creative and play around with some more, I guess the more modern or contemporary topics and kind of try to connect them to ethics, virtue ethics, feminist ethics, something like that, you could play around with that too. I hope you're getting the hang of this. And I hope you have fun searching. Try to find something that you are authentically interested in. And if you read the first page and you think this is way over my head, it's not working for me, make sure you've emailed yourself a few things, because don't force yourself to struggle through an article if it's really written at a high register. I think you want to find something that you can actually, maybe it'll challenge you a little bit, but that you can follow along and get something from. So happy searching. I'm super excited to read about whatever it is that you find and that you post in the discussion area for this week. Thanks, everybody.